Hi, everyone. Good day. Good day. My name is Gidget Smith. I am a marriage and family therapist. And today, what we're going to discuss is narcissism. Yes. And so today, I find that when I'm looking at whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, or TikTok, many people often use the term narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder interchangeably. But I just want to inform you that they are quite different, right? And so, first off, let me just express to you that narcissism is not an official health disorder, whereas narcissistic personality is, right? And so, interchanging these terms is actually mixing two completely different groups of people together, right? And so I believe it's important that knowledge is power, and I want to provide that today, okay? And so when you're dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, aka
Good evening,
NPD,
ladies. Can you
is
hear me now?
is a far more serious problem than the act of narcissism, right? The emotions associated with NPD are dark and long term, right? It fuels such a sense of emptiness that can lead to anxiety and depression. And many of those that suffer with NPD are unable to connect with others, right, on a deeper level, which means that their relationship is more so superficial than anything, right? And so when you're dealing with people who are having NPD, they will often not be able to experience empathy, and therefore they're more likely to exploit others for their own means, okay? And so when you're dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, it's a mental disorder which people have inflated sense of themselves, right? And they see their own importance as a deep need of admiration. And so persons with narcissistic personality disorder, they believe that they are superior to others, right? And that they have little regard for other person's feelings, okay? But behind the mask, behind what they show forth, their confidence is really fragile, believe it or not, right? And their self-esteem is pretty low. They're vulnerable, and the slightest criticism sets them off, right? And so with this personality disorder, it causes people to misunderstand what's really going on with the individual, right? And so when somebody may say, oh, that person is filled, they seem to be filled with arrogance or filled with self confidence, right? However, just beneath this shallow surface lies a person who feels a deep sense of shame and humiliation and low self esteem, believe it or not. And that's why they're so easily hurt in the face of criticism. These are people who do not function well, to be honest, and they alienate friends and family to come feel so, and they become very socially isolated, right? And sometimes they're depressed. And this is very difficult for those who have NPD because they don't want anyone to think anything's wrong with them, right? And so they're caught between thinking they're superior and feeling miserable all at the same time, right? And so narcissism and other, whereas narcissism are people who are narcissistic, but they don't have the mental illness that's a component to that, right? And so I believe in debunking different myths that deals with narcissism, right? Because you hear it often and people say things that they don't necessarily know is true. So let's start with the first one. I want to put this on the screen. Myths about narcissism. Okay, so the first myth about narcissism, as we just explained, is that narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism is the same, and they are not. Okay, so we learned that today. The second one is that narcissism is just about physical vanity. Okay, and so that in itself is also, narcissism is not just about physical vanity, right? And so many narcissists, believe it or not, particularly grandiose narcissists, and we're going to go over the different types today, obsess over intelligence. Okay, they strive to show everyone how intelligent they are. They believe that they're being perceived as intelligent is key to success, right? They will often try to show how smart they are, how they, by using their big words. They want to hear people's admiration about the points that they're using, how logical, how reasonable they are, and in comparison to everybody else that's around them, right? And this strategy is often because it does the opposite. Many times they don't fully understand the words that they're using, and their tendency to ramble on makes it seem less logical, right? Another myth that people utilize too is that all narcissists are predators, right? Now let's be real here. This their disorder, those who are narcissists, makes them insensitive to the needs and feelings of their family, their friends and colleagues, and they do lack empathy, right? But that doesn't mean they're being predatory. They need other people to validate them so that they can maintain their sense of worth. Okay. And they manipulate people to get them to do so. Right. But unless they're manipulate narcissists, they won't take joy in hurting others, right? They're more predatory than anyone else. So we'll get right into that later. All right. And another one is that narcissists are incapable of forming relationships, right? You often hear people say, "Oh, narcissist people like to be by themselves." Now, let's be transparent here. When you're dealing with a person that you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it will be, in fact, a rocky road. As a therapist, I see it all the time when persons come in and they're in a relationship with a narcissist partner. They do have a rocky road, but let's be very clear. Narcissists do can and do form close relationships, okay? Sometimes it lasts even for years. They also lose a lot of their relationships because of how they behave, but they do and can form relationships. And a lot depends on how the narcissist partner reacts to the narcissistic abuse they face day in, day out. Okay. Another common thing that people like to say too is that narcissistic personality disorder is common. Okay. And to be honest with you, hi, Tracy and E, welcome, guys, welcome. And so a lot of times people like to say narcissistic personality disorder is common, and the reality is that it's not. Okay, it's not a common thing. I know on social media coverages, you may see that, but prominent and see like prominent narcissistic people who make the news. But the fact is that statistically, that they have covered, it's like 0.5 to 1% that suffers from this disorder. Yes. And moreover, those, and let's be realistic. A true narcissist is not going to seek therapy, is not going to do anything to get help. So, but when those do, they are 75% of narcissists are men, and the other 25% are women. So those who are like to say, "Oh, all narcissistic people are men," up, sorry to bust your bubble. There's some women up in there too. Okay, so keep in mind when you're hearing statistics and all of these different things, understand that many of the narcissists, they don't seek help. Therefore, the percentage doesn't really give current real accuracy of exactly what that is. Okay, so we just want to be very, very clear with that. Okay, another common thing that people like to say about narcissists is that all narcissists are the same. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, that is completely untrue. Okay. There are many types of narcissists that we are going to dive right into today. And though they all suffer with one common trait, which is they complete lack of empathy, they have different times in how they go about things and different things. So I just want us to be very clear with that, okay? A next thing that you hear too, you'll see me look around because I'm seeing from different platforms, okay? So all narcissists are master manipulators. Yes, you'll hear people say that. I have people come to my office for individual therapy, online, in person, that will say, oh, this my narcissistic husband, my narcissistic boyfriend, he's a master manipulator. Sorry to break it to you guys. All narcissistic people are not master manipulators, okay? There's a notion that they're extremely smart and they're extremely manipulative, right? And they, I have to be honest, they do have this cunning ability to pull the wool over many persons' eyes and manipulate them to get what they want. While this is true for some, it's not the case for all. So we don't want to just say all narcissistic people are manipulators. Some are, okay? Narcissistic men or women are often similar to their children, who they learn by trial and error to get what they want, right? So they take advantage to other people's willingness to give in to them. Did you hear what I just say? Willingness to give in to them. Okay. All right. The next one. Only special people can change a narcissist. I've heard this time and time again. Oh, I can change him or I can change her. The reality is that that's not true. Okay. You can't change anyone except for yourself, right? So if that's your partner, you can only change you. Darnay says masters. Right? So you can only change you, right? So if a narcissist truly wants to change and makes a commitment to long-term therapy, they may be able to have success in reducing their narcissistic tendencies, okay? But they have to make the decision to commit, right? And then follow through by doing so to make it work, okay? That doesn't happen very often, to be honest, where you'll see that a lot of narcissists, they'll start with therapy to prove that they're not narcissists, but then they'll leave, okay? They'll show great promise in helping to improve, but however, let's be honest, the decision is always up to them, just like in any person that you deal with, right? Another one. A narcissist is unaware of who they are. Yes, I've heard that. That, well, he or she doesn't know that they're narcissists. Well, I'll say that's plausible, right? Because plausible denial of being a narcissist is a huge problem in a malignant narcissism, which we'll get into later, right? And the denial of being a narcissist goes hand in hand, right? And so they have general traits of this disorder as a whole. And so a narcissist doesn't worry about them being overly narcissistic traits, okay? They understand that they lack empathy. That's one thing that all narcissists realize. And as human beings, we know that that's a crucial part in being human, to have empathy. That's a healthy functionality that we all have. But when they are able to exploit this to someone else's empathy or vulnerability to their advantage, a narcissist will never admit that they're narcissists, okay? And so that in itself, I just definitely want to talk about that as well. So the next statement too is that all abusers are narcissists. I've heard that a lot, right? I've heard where people say, listen, this person abused me, so I know that they're a narcissist. And the reality is that not all people who are abusive are narcissists. Some people, they actually have different forms of trauma they go through, and that depends on what level, right, of what they are, okay? Another thing that people like to say too is that all narcissists are very confident, right? A lot of people say, listen, narcissistic people, they are very confident. They are heartless and loving you to insanity. Yes, very true, Eve. Very, very, very true, right? And so people like to say, all narcissists are very confident. Well, narcissistic persons often have this grandiose personality, yes, and eludes a self-confident, yes, but that's just a facade, right? They portray this to impress other people, and they make themselves seem superior, excuse me, but the root behavior, as a therapist, is, as any therapist would tell you, is that they have lack of confidence and low self-esteem, and their way of having this facade of confidence is a way for them to manage this self-doubt, right? And to starve off feelings of shame and self-hatred, right? So they have this exaggerated self-confidence about themselves, okay? When I'm talking about not narcissistic personality disorder, okay? And so they will even also have a way of overcompensating their very low self-esteem, right? And so they inflate the sense of self, and it actually is to put as a way of protecting themselves, which is kind of weird, but that's how they do it. And they use this to this cover up to extreme hurt, and they're embarrassed and they feel guilty about it, right? And so let's get right into the types of narcissists, right? Because I think it's important for us to really get into the different types of narcissistic people. Okay, so we have what we call the overt narcissism. Let me get this on the screen so people can see, right? So the overt narcissism, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that, but listen, we're going to get right into it, okay? So now the overt narcissist really has this, they're known for having a grandiose attitude, okay? And this is what we typically think of when we talk about a narcissist, right? These people are usually extroverted, grandiose, aggressive, attention seeking, and they can be very charming, to be honest. And they typically expect special treatment. They can be, predatory in their ability to see vulnerability in others and use it against them. Okay, they're very highly competitive and are willing to humiliate someone else in order to gain perspective or to perceive that they have a win. Okay, so that's how an overt narcissist really goes. Okay, and then we have the covert. Okay, the covert narcissist. Okay, and now when you're dealing with a covert narcissist, sorry guys, my screen went blank. I hope you guys see and hear me. For those who are on here, when you're dealing with a covert, ooh, sorry guys, I don't know if you can see me. If you can see me, just say yes. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so when you're dealing with a covert narcissist, sometimes they're this out of the whole narcissistic persons, they're sometimes referred as the narcissistic vulnerability. Okay, and this type of person tends to be passive aggressive, right? But comes across as very helpless. Okay, they tend to present themselves as victims and are quickly to cry at the stage of crisis to gain the attention of their victim, right? They also tend to struggle with anxiety and depression. Okay, so when you're dealing with a covert narcissist, okay, and then you have what we call the hypervigilant narcissist. Okay. And now this type of person tends to be highly sensitive to body language and facial reactions and tones and reactions of others. Okay. They tend to take things personally and they're hypersensitive to criticism. I'm talking hyper. All right. They're prone to feel shame or humiliation and can be self-efficacy, right? They are likely to direct actions of others and prefer not to be center of attention. Did you hear what I just said? They prefer not to be the center of attention, right? And so a lot of times people think narcissists always like attention, and that's not true. Okay. Then you have the oblivious type, right? So while While most narcissists are unaware of the feelings of others, this type of narcissistic person has is known for being completely lacking awareness and sensitivity towards others. Okay, they're missing the sensitivity bow. Okay, they're self-absorbed, they're arrogant, they're aggressive, and they need to be a center of attention at all times. Okay, then you have the exhibitionists. Yes, folks, we have the exhibitionist narcissist. Okay. And this type of person, they have a need for constant attention. Okay. It's like a bottomless pit, right? For these people, they think that they're better than other people physically, intellectually. They look down on other people, whether they're their family, their friends, and guess what? Even their children. Okay, they're very status conscious, right? They're very materialistic, right? They like to show off about what kind of job they have, and oh, I am, I wear Gucci, I wear Prada, I work for such and such, I work for Goldman Sachs, I work for the White House, right? They're very status makes them who they are, and they're very conscious of that. Okay, they think they're very special, and they have enormous need to be admired all the time, right? So when they're going out, oh, you see what I have on, right? Oh, you see, oh, you're not recognizing me, all that type of, different kinds of interactions. Okay, I see some comments coming, don't worry, I'm going to show it. Okay, and then you have what we call the sexual type. Okay, I don't know if that came on. Let me make sure. So then you have the sexual type narcissist. Okay, now this person with the sexual type, the sexual type or what have you is exactly what the name is entailing. Okay, so the sexual narcissist feels that they're entitled to have their sexual needs met at all times, anytime, any place, anywhere, right? They have a self-centered view of sex, and they tend to be not skilled in emotional intimacy, and therefore they're not very interested in their partner's emotional needs or needs, period. Okay, they frequently overestimate their skills in the bedroom, okay, because they're not very in tune with their partner. They're just only getting their own self gratification. Okay, yet they expect a lot of praise for their performance in bed. Okay, even though they react very poor on their sexual experience with their partner, they have very poor sexual rejection. Okay, they expect sex in return for gifts. They expect sex in return for a nice gesture that they've done for their spouse or their partner. Okay, and they will pressure the person or trick them or manipulate the person to have sex with them. So it's like, oh, well, I did this for you, I want sex. Oh, I did this for what happened, I gave you all these gifts, what's going on with the sex? Or if they're married to the person, oh babe or honey or whatever it is, or queen or king or whatever they want to call them, right? Oh, I did this, so are we gonna have sex tonight? Or they would just be on them steady. Let's have sex, when we're gonna have sex, when we're gonna have sex, when we're gonna have sex, right? And so they feel entitled to get sex anywhere and everywhere else, right? And even if you don't meet their need as their monogamous partner, they will find someone to have sex with while being engaged in a relationship with you, because they feel that their need has to be met. And if they're not feeling that you're up to their expectation, or if you're not pleasing them, they will find somebody else to have sex with. Okay, and now after that, you have the malignant type. Okay, and now this one is an interesting one. Okay, the malignant narcissist, I hope I'm saying that, malign, guys, work with me with pronunciation today. Okay, so this type of narcissist is the dangerous one out of all of them. Okay, because this personality disorder really crosses between narcissistic personality disorder and what we have, what's also called antisocial personality disorder, right? So you'll hear persons will say they have a narcissistic and antisocial personality disorder. Okay, and this means that they have no ability to feel empathy whatsoever. Okay, they are what we call, that you persons may know as, a psychopath or sociopath. Okay, and these aggressive, hostile, paranoid persons are sadistic. Okay, and they are dehumanizing, okay, to those who are around them. And you'll find that people will say that, for an example, Hitler was a malignant narcissist. Okay, this is the most dangerous type of narcissist that anyone can be in a relationship with, or be in a family of, or father or parent, right? Because if you feel that you're dating a person like what I just stated, this person will literally hurt you physically, emotionally, financially, sexually, and they have absolutely no remorse. Okay, they will bat their eyes and just looking at you like, okay, what happened? What's wrong with you? Yeah, I slapped you. Okay, but you deserved it. You made me do it, right? Or if you forgot something, well, why didn't you remind me? Why didn't you remind me that this was in a store? This was at home, and now we're at the store. So you know what? I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to pay the rent. I'm not going to do anything. And you're just going to have to figure it out on your own. Okay. And so they have absolutely absolutely no conscience whatsoever. Okay. And so I want to explain like different signs that I realize as a therapist, when persons are in different kinds of relationships, and they don't realize that the type of narcissist that they're with. And so these are a couple of things that I've noticed, as that has come in my office. And that is, with narcissists, there are conversational hoarders, right? And so they love to talk about him or herself. And so these are signs. So if you're in a relationship, you're wondering, I'm just going to give you a few signs, okay? And so they are persons who love to talk about him or herself. They don't give anyone a chance to take part in any kind of conversation. They will hoard the conversation to the very end, okay? And then even if you have a struggle with how their views, they don't want to hear your views. Okay, when you get a word in, if you get a word in, it's like, I don't agree with you. What's wrong with you? You didn't hear me talking. And so they will literally try to correct you about your own thought in mid-sentence, or even period at all. So you'll never really get your edgewise in without them literally cutting you to make you feel dismissed or corrected, or they'll just straight ignore you. So while you're talking, they're like, so this is what I think is best. And you're like, but I didn't even tell you the whole sentence. How did that even happen? Right. And so that's another one. When you're in a relationship with the narcissist, they have absolutely no boundaries. Okay. And so they don't show any regard. They have no regard for a person's thoughts, feelings, possessions, or physical space. Okay. And so this boundary violator, as we know it, they overstep and uses others without considering their conscience or their feelings or anything. Okay, they'll borrow money, items without returning it. They'll break promises, obligations repeatedly, and they show no remorse. Okay, and then they'll blame the victim. They'll blame their person, or they blame their family members, or they'll blame their partner for them forgetting, or for them not having a respect for them. Okay, so you'll hear things like, oh, it's your fault that I forgot because you didn't remind me, right? But no one said that we're supposed to remind each other. You have keys or things to do, but yeah. Okay, another thing that I've realized, that a lot of people are not real in relationships, is that narcissists, they will interrupt your conversation. Okay. So now let me say this. I don't want you to now go and in your relationship, your partner, your spouse, interruption. You're like, you're narcissist. No, guys. Please don't do that. Okay. Okay. So while many people have poor communication habits, of interrupting others, when the narcissist interrupts, it quickly shifts, and switches the focus back to themselves. Okay. They show little to no interest in you. Okay. Another thing that narcissistic persons do in relationships too is that they have negative emotions. And so they enjoy spreading, and they get aroused at negative emotions, right? Because then they feel that they gain attention, and then they feel powerful, right? And then it keeps you like off balance and insecure, right? And so they're easily upset at any real or perceived slights of inattentiveness. Okay. They may throw tantrums if you disagree with their views. If you fail to meet their expectations, they'll throw a tantrum. Okay. And they are extremely sensitive to good criticism, any kinds of criticism. Okay. And so they typically respond when you're in heated arguments, right? And then if you are detached for them, and you're like in a flight mode, they'll also respond to that too. Okay. And so also remember that when it comes to narcissists, they're often quick to judge and quick to criticize and ridicule, and they'll blame you for it. Okay. Narcissists, some of them are emotionally abusive. Okay. And then they'll make you feel inferior. They'll boast about your fragility, right? And to boost their ego. And then that makes them feel better about themselves. Okay. And so let's talk about, different kinds of symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. And one of the symptoms is that when persons that have this disorder, they believe that they're better than others. Okay, that's number one, hands down. They believe that they're better than others. Another thing is that they fantasize about power, success, attractiveness, and how they can get ahead. Not in a way like, oh, I need to, if I do this and this, I can get ahead, or I can work alongside with such a. No, they're ready to stomp your whole head out. All right, because they need to get to that top. Okay. Another one is that they exaggerate their achievements. Yes, they got let's say if they got a certificate in the office of great attendance, they will say that they got the award man or woman for the year of their attentiveness, of how they got in, and every day that they're there on time, and they it's a certificate of attendance, folks. Okay, but they will make it like they got a whole doctoral degree on attendance. Okay. Another thing is that they have an expectation of constant praise and admiration, and so when that's not given to them, if they walk across the street and they held a bag for you for 2 seconds and you don't give them a praise or something, then they have some rebuttal about it. Okay. Another one is believing that they're special, and therefore, because they feel that they're special, you need to act accordingly. Okay. So if you're not in a line with their thoughts, they feel like, oh, I know this, you don't, and you're not moving alongside with them, that's another sign. Okay. Another one is that they take advantage of others. And I'm going to talk about that next week between an empath and a narcissist, but that's a whole different conversation for next week. And they like to express their disdain for those who they believe is inferior to them. Right? They'll let you know, like, oh, she's beneath me. Oh, he's beneath me. He doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know what she's doing. They need me. I'm the person that actually got them this. I'm the person who actually did this for them. And because of me, they wouldn't have been able to survive, right? And it's actually the person actually working hard, but because they're in alignment, they're in a relationship with them, they feel like, no, that's me. I'm the reason why you are who you are, right? Another thing is that with persons with that has symptoms of MPD is that they're easily hurt and rejected. So you can say, oh well, I don't think that's, something that you should. What happened? You're trying to say I'm not this, and like they'll just go off on a tangent. You're like, I just said that the button was misplaced. I didn't say that she didn't know how to dress. Like, that kind of thing. And they just have a real fragile self-esteem about them, even though they may appear tough-minded and or unemotional. That's how they really roll. And so, one thing I want to say to everyone is that one thing about narcissists, when it comes to manipulation, they use other people as an extension of themselves, right? And so making decisions for others to suit their own needs. Okay, a narcissist sometimes they usually use their romantical partners. Guess what? They use children, their friends and colleagues to meet unreasonable self-serving needs. Okay, to fulfill some form of dream or aspiration, or to cover up their self-perceived inadequacy and flaws, to be honest with you. And so an example of a narcissistic parent, if you will, is like, if my daughter doesn't grow up to be a professional lawyer, I'm going to disown him or her. All right. Or mother, a narcissistic mother or father would say, aren't you handsome? Aren't you beautiful? Aren't you beautiful? Aren't you handsome? You're going to be just as handsome and pretty as your mother and no one else. Like they have no identity than themselves. Like their kid has they have no identity. Believe it. Okay. Another way a narcissistic persons manipulate is through guilt. Okay, and such as proclaiming like, I've given you so much, you're so ungrateful, I'm the victim, you must help me, or you're not a good person because you didn't do that, right? They will literally hijack your emotions and beguile you into thinking you did not make some unreasonable sacrifice for them. And because of that, they have penalty with that. And one of the things that I tell persons, the number one thing to help if you are experiencing any form of narcissistic relationships or family members or parents or children or what have you, is that you have to set boundaries. A lot of times people don't set boundaries with narcissistic people, and that's why they feel that they have the power and they're empowered to do certain things like this to you. If you're in a relationship, or you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship, or what have you, I strongly suggest that you see a therapist, point blank period. And for those who, you may say, you know what, I see these things in myself and I want to really deal with the issues of these things that I heard today, I would suggest that if you're a narcissistic person, yes, I think you should see therapy so that you know how to minimize these different traits about yourself, so that you can act, so you could be in a cohesive relationship, and that can actually work well. And so let's be very clear. There's a lot of narcissistic people who have sought help, and they do have real good relationships. As crazy as it may sound, they do, because they are learning how to deal with their skills and learning how to deal with their traits, and they have partners who are also working alongside them to get them straightened out. But like I said earlier, if you're with a malignant narcissist, run. I say leave. Leave, get out of that. And so I just wanted to just share with you guys. I'm going to look at these comments right now that's on different places. Just like budding you to doubt yourself. Exactly. They will do exactly that. Eve, thank you so much for that. Hold on. Um, 100% one-sided relationship. Absolutely. When you're in a narcissistic relationship, you're definitely going to be in a one-sided relationship for sure, for sure, for sure. And that's why I tell people it's important for you to learn and really understand what it is, because we use it so often, but we don't realize that this is a disorder, a narcissistic personality disorder. There's no cure for that. And so it's important for us to really have information about it and not necessarily just calling everyone narcissist. And let's be very clear, a person that has a narcissistic personality disorder has narcissism, but a person that is narcissist that may act in narcissism doesn't mean they have a narcissistic personality disorder. And we want to be very careful when we say different things about different people in regards to that. Okay. And so I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. And so I am Gidget Antoinette Smith. I am a marriage and family therapist. And I just wanted to say to those who are listening to me on Facebook and YouTube, thank you so much. And those who will watch the replay, please like and share so people can have a knowledge of for that. And for those who are on Clubhouse, I'm going to give you extra time to ask me questions, or we can have a couple of minutes of conversation. And until then, stay tuned for next week's episode.